Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Look at this.
Moves him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again.
You hear that wheel spin, Ben?
Yeah, I did hear that wheel spin.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go. But the bump and run is going to get Jeff Gordon the checkered flag at the end of the winless streak. Gordon wins the Sharpie 500 at Bristol.
And Maine really turned around, made a Riley's cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. And if you're enjoying the show, like, share, subscribe. Podcast available on all podcast platforms every Monday night: Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning video available on YouTube. Shout out to all the friends of the show. Shout out to Matt Vav. I believe tonight is his birthday, so happy birthday, Matt Vav. And make sure you tell all your friends. If you got some NASCAR friends at home, spread the word. Let's get this thing going. I want as many people enjoying the show as possible. And follow us on Twitter at Bump and Run Pod. That's Bump, the letter N, Run Pod, and bumpandrunpod.com. How you guys doing? Did you enjoy Talladega this past weekend?
You know I did.
I'll tell you what, my opinion on super speedways may have changed after the race yesterday.
That's what I like to hear. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, shame on you. Go back and listen. It was a great episode. But we discussed how Eric, he kind of fell out of love with super speedway racing. Of course, Talladega, the biggest track we have, the fastest track on the circuit. And we had, I thought, a great super speedway race. And we'll jump into
Whole weekend.
Great weekend of racing. Weather played a little bit of a part in the Xfinity Series race. We'll get into that in a second. But before we jump into the Talladega weekend, do you guys want to recap the last week in news?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first thing on the agenda last Wednesday, they had another iRacing Pro Invitational with all the regular Cup stars going to virtual Talladega in iRacing. And one maybe younger talent would be the right word. I don't even know. Kevin Harvick's son, Keelan Harvick, was invited. He was one of the pros
Future
they invited
star.
to. Future star. I mean, he's doing his own racing. What'd you guys think about that? Did you watch the event at all? Do you have any thoughts on Keelan Harvick being invited to race with a bunch of pros?
I mean, I didn't watch the race.
Yeah.
I did see some highlights through social media and whatnot, but I do like the dedication from his old man and his son. I don't know if you guys saw where, his son has a broken wrist or arm. And they had his old cast cut off and a new one molded on. And Kevin Harvick brought in a steering wheel into the doctor's office so that they could mold the cast so he could still drive a car, essentially. So I love the dedication. If we want to talk who's allowed in and out of certain races and whatnot, that might have caused a little controversy in my mind. But hey, video games, go out there and send it.
Yeah, hell yeah. I thought it was a cool little moment when Kevin came up to Keelan when Keelan was still in the driver's seat and he was slapping his chest, good job. He was kind of, giving him, it was a good dad son moment.
Right.
I thought, which is the stuff you want to see, right? Especially with something like that. It's an exhibition type of event where it doesn't the outcome doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess for some of the guys who are sponsored, it might, but
yeah.
I thought it was a nice little moment. I actually funny little story is what was, I guess that was Wednesday night.
Yeah, it was Wednesday night.
So I was watching a little bit of it, and then with I think 12 laps to go, I had to pause it because Steph and I were doing something.
Oh yeah.
And I had every intention of coming back to it to watch the last 12 laps. Yeah. Important legal documentation signing stuff. Okay, Eric.
Come on, be mature here.
Yeah, be mature.
Never.
So I came back to grab the remote and hit play so I can watch the last 12 laps. And here comes the text from Whitey. Oh, I can't believe Keselowski won or something like that.
Keselowski scummed one on the last lap restart.
Yeah. So he says that.
Much
and I'm
like this
I guess
weekend.
I guess I don't need to watch the last 12 laps. And I just got out of it. I got out of the recording. So Whitey kind of did it for me. But
I apologize for that.
Way to go. You blew it.
I mean, well, here's the thing. We were talking about it back and forth earlier on in the day. I mean, and I think we were talking about this, Matt, you have a wedding coming up in a few months here, and it's going to be during one of the playoff races. It was the Bristol night race, I believe. And you're talking about how you're going to turn off your phone for the night, make sure no one spoils the race for you so you can go home and watch it on demand or on your DVR. And you broke your own rule. You checked your phone in the middle of a paused race.
I know. Well, I told Steph that I was like, that's exactly why when we go to this wedding, this is the exact reason why I have to turn my phone off. I might even leave it at the hotel because
just to be safe.
I know, because I know I'm going to be tempted to turn that on. I'll be like I said last week, I'll be stuck in the bathroom for an hour and a half watching the rest of that race. So
does NASCAR
like that I'm gonna have to
does
shut
NASCAR Fantasy run during the playoffs? I've never done it before this year.
So the way it's gonna be is like all of our allocations are good for those 10 allocations per driver, good for the regular season, and then it resets and you get 5 allocations per driver for the 10 races in the playoffs. So
you're gonna have to
figger something out with the fantasy. I know.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to give your dad your password or something so you could move that garage pick if something happens. At least
he's not too technically savvy. Dad, I know you're going to be listening to this. Don't take it personally. So I don't think he's the one I want handling that business. But
I was going to say
out one way or another.
I was going to say he was probably the most trustworthy of anyone in that fantasy league, or maybe not. Sure. Maybe he would throw you right under the bus and put one of your best drivers in the garage just to gain some points. I mean. Right. Tony Stewart would wreck his own mother to win a race, so I'm sure your father would screw up your fantasies to win his. I forgot to mention Brad Keselowski, the big winner down in Talladega for the Geico 500. I don't know. It slipped my mind at the beginning, maybe because he only led one lap. But in other NASCAR news, so he won that Pro Invitational and he won the race this past Sunday. In other NASCAR news, Netflix just announced they're working on a documentary about Bubba Wallace and his first season at 23XI. I think it's great deal just to get some more eyes on the sport. I'm a big fan of documentaries too, so I'm sure that'll bring the casual fan or maybe even non-fans to watch it, and maybe they'll get hooked on races. What do you guys think about it?
Sure. I know like F1 has that series on Netflix, and it seems like it gets a lot of views.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
I heard it's
Tom
amazing
Segura,
too.
He just brought it up on his podcast, Two Bears, One Cave, with Bert Kreischer, and he was telling Bert Kreischer, like, hey, like, I know he's not into racing or whatever, like, you don't have to. It's just done so well that you get immersed into it, and I've heard great things about it, and it's one of those shows that I thought about starting up.
Same. Every time I see it, I stop on it. And then for whatever reason or another, it's not the right time to start a new series but like I do want to see that. And I'm to bring that back to NASCAR. I'm hoping that the Bubba Wallace documentary gets a lot of buzz. I'm for sure excited about it. I'm definitely going to watch it. And I just hope they do a good job with it. I'm sure they will. I don't know what production company is doing it, but I'm sure they'll do a good job with it.
Yeah, and you want to know what? You guys bring up a great point about that F1 docu-series that it follows around the drivers. What's it called? It's not Drive to Survive.
F1.
Is it?
It's F1
okay.
Drive to Survive. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that,
so that's had buzz for at least a year and a half now, and I feel like because of that show, I see F1 stuff trending on Twitter in the NASCAR Twitter community all the time. So if that could do that
they have their F1 has the ESPN, ESPN has the rights to broadcast F1. So I'm sure that helps being on, the major sports network too. I would love, I'm like dying for, like, I would love for NASCAR to do that same type of documentary.
Well, so there are a couple. They're on the Motor Trend Network, though.
Yeah, you told me that before.
And if you have Amazon Prime, you could sign up for the Motor Trend Network. It's like an extra $5 a month. I did it just to watch these NASCAR documentaries from last season. There was, I think it was a 5-part, or 5 or 10 episode series, all about leading up to the Daytona 500. It followed RCR around. It followed Corey LaJoie and someone else to the 2020 Daytona 500, and that was really interesting. I became a fan of Corey LaJoie just through watching that. And then there was another one that recapped the whole entire season that was done phenomenally. So
Okay.
I would recommend anyone. You could watch them. I think there's like a 5-day free trial for Motor Trend. Eric, what were you saying?
Did they do a Daniel Suarez one? I thought they did one with Daniel Suarez. I thought I caught it on.
I think so.
He had his own. I don't know if it was that same Motor Trend thing. I think it was on Amazon Prime. Is what I watched a lot recently, and there was one whole thing, and they followed, like you said, into the garage, and like the whole thing. A team followed
I think.
Daniel Suarez.
I know what you're talking about because they aired it on FS1 during a rain delay a couple weeks ago, where it showed like Pitbull and stuff. That was real interesting. And you want to know what, those documentaries, like if you catch like just catch them on demand or something, you're not a fan, it might suck you in and make you want to check out a NASCAR race. So I think it's great.
That's my point with this Bubba thing. I think if it's done well and if it's done, I think we need as real as possible.
Oh yeah.
No gimmicks with this, nothing. Show what it's like to be a fan in the garage area, in pit road, what these, pit crews go through throughout an entirety of a race.
That's what
the little guys that don't get the spotlight during a Sunday broadcast, that's what I want to see. And I think those little things is what got me into the sport. So
I think that's what they're gonna focus a lot just on the team itself too. And I agree. I love seeing, the pit crew practices and stuff, seeing all the work that the pit crews go into, all the work the engineers. There's I've brought it up a couple times on the podcast, but if you go on Crackle, which is a free service, it's got ads or whatever, but there's a docuseries from a couple years ago with Chase Elliott's freshman year in Cup. Dale Jr. was still racing. They did it all at Team Hendrick. It was called Road to Race Day. And that's a fantastic series because it let you inside of Hendrick. You saw the practices, the team practice, the engineers. I mean, the guy that sets up the interior of the car. And he was working with Jeff Gordon when Gordon came back to fill in for Junior for those races. And just the differences between drivers, what they like, their hydration packs and just their rituals before race was really interesting.
I would love to see that, but I'm worried though, because we're such big fans of it. Of course, we would love to see that stuff
because it's like inside baseball,
But is your normal,
are they going to be put off from it?
Right.
But see, I don't think with a documentary like this, I don't think it should be used to get new fans. I think it should be for the fans already. I think they could do other things to bring the eyes to it. This has to be done crisp and clean. We need a new Days of Thunder. That's something that really rocked the sport. Someone tweeted that. I think it might have been Joy or somebody was like, we need something like what Days of Thunder did in the 90s. It caused such a
stir and
it caused a boom.
And I think okay, they started off
people
with
really
the
excited
with the Kevin James show, and that was very dumbed down. So I think that might have been hey, let's try to get a casual fan here and there. It's not going to be exact, of what happens in the, behind the scenes and at a race shop, but it's enough to get us as NASCAR fans to watch as well. And it didn't create that much buzz. So I think this needs to. So if they're really promoting it like they are, I think Bubba is a great person to do it. I think he will get eyes no matter what because it is Bubba.
Yeah.
But I hope they do it right. And, I know this is a little off subject here, but we were talking about that F1 and their advertising and why do you brought that up? And I noticed that same exact thing because I'm getting a ton of F1 stuff where they're doing the the United States got a Miami. Are they doing a Miami course?
Yeah. Next year they're gonna do it around the Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's freaking badass. Like, I'd love to. Like, I'm not an F1 guy, but like,
it's something you want to check out.
Check that out.
Well,
so if it's getting me, if F1 got me as a NASCAR fan, I'm getting all of this fed to me.
Yeah.
You know, let's just hope NASCAR does it right so that those other, series and stuff, their fans, they get bombarded and get a little taste of what NASCAR's about.
Absolutely.
Speaking of other motorsports, F1 included, one of our favorites, Cody Ware, is supposedly working on sponsorship to run the Indy 500 in a Rick Ware car. And does that move the needle for you at all?
I thought it was a joke. I honestly thought it was like, is it April Fools or something?
Yeah.
Is this a joke after all the shit that's been going down? This is what you're going to try to do?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I refused to spend 5 more seconds of the show's time and our audience's time on Cody Ware. So I have no comment.
All right, moving on to SRX Superstar Racing Experience. Of course, Tony Stewart's new venture going to be on CBS coming up this spring and summer every Saturday night. I believe, what is it, an 8 track schedule, and one Hailie Deegan, up and coming truck star, is signed to race at least one race. Now, does that move the needle for you? Are you interested in seeing Hailie Deegan on a short track in an SRX car?
Oh yeah. She rips it up, especially on dirt. Coming from that, pro truck series and 3-time champ there. Like, I think that's where she belongs, is in more of a car that she could really, get to feel it and whip it around and, really drive the wheels off that thing, So I'm excited to see that. I think that'll bring, some eyes to that new series for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for the series regardless. I just, I think the more names, like you said, Whitey, even though she's still just an up and comer, we've kind of been, in the NASCAR community has kind of been, talking about Hailie Deegan for a few years now as she's progressing through the ranks. So she's already got that fan base down. So of course, I think I think Ray Evernham and Tony Stewart are smart in the fact that, whatever big name they can get,
it's going to move the needle. It's going to get viewers and eyes on a new series. I think it's a great thing too. I'm just getting excited for SRX in general. It seems like it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I love all the little teaser videos they've been putting out on social media. If you're not following them on Instagram and Twitter, you definitely want to, because they post something new pretty much every day now. And it's getting me hyped for the series. Hailie Deegan just came from the ARCA World last year. She was in the K&N Pro Series a couple years ago and stuff. And we had an ARCA race down in Talladega. It was pretty interesting. I know, Matt, you were watching a little bit of it. I tuned in during the red flag, and I didn't realize what had happened. But one of the drivers, Derek Lancaster, was involved in a fiery accident. Currently, he is in a Birmingham burn unit with 2nd and 3rd degree burns and on a ventilator. We're still waiting on updates. His wife has been updating everyone throughout the day on social media. And the last I checked, he is still on a ventilator. He's in critical condition, but he's in stable condition. It's non-life threatening. I assume the ventilators from smoke inhalation and all that, but 2nd and 3rd degree burns. It has me wondering, ARCA is part of the NASCAR's umbrella of motorsports, and it makes me nervous because a lot of people on TMD and on NASCAR radio channel 90 on Sirius XM were talking maybe his fire suit was just old, or the more times you wash a fire suit, the less flame retardant it becomes. And I wonder, some of these smaller teams down in ARCA, do you think they're paying attention to the little things like that? Do you think safety needs to be more of a priority in the lower series?
I'm sure safety is plenty enough of a priority. I mean, that could have happened in a cup car. They just have some better technology and equipment to, I know with the cup cars, and I'm assuming even the Xfinity and trucks, they have an extinguishing system where if a fire does break out, theoretically, if it works correctly, that it puts it out almost immediately. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can answer. How old are those ARCA cars? Because I know it's, they're
I think they're an Xfinity body. I don't think they're
Right?
that old. I think the
Right?
ARCA is the last Xfinity body. It's a newer car.
Yeah, right. It's not
The last
that
4
old.
years, maybe 4 years.
Okay.
I want to say it's a little bit older than that because Xfinity's been running the Camaro longer than Cup has, and I think they're running Impalas still in ARCA, right?
Okay. I'm honestly not sure.
I know it's fairly new though, Matt. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I remember the ARCA cars. They looked way different.
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could tell it was an ARCA race. And then
Yep.
I was flipping through, and I'm like, oh, Xfinity's on it. I'm like, wait a minute, that's who the heck?
Yeah.
The driver's names. I'm like, oh, that's ARCA. So
Yeah.
like the cars,
look
they
a lot
look like an
better.
Xfinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look
Yeah,
a
they
lot
look
better.
a lot better.
So
But so I don't know if you guys saw it. I was kind of like during nap time for me on Saturday.
Oh,
So
yeah.
because I knew it was gonna be a long night with the UFC fight, so I wanted to squeeze in a little nap there. But I did happen to catch that wreck towards the end of the race, and it was weird. He got bumped on the back stretch there and just flattened the outside wall.
Yeah.
And he rolled what must have been 300 or 400 yards, it seemed like, down the backstretch as the car was on fire. And I guess he was trying to get to the grass to turn it sideways to maybe help extinguish the fire somehow.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I thought when I saw it. Yeah,
That's what it looked like he was trying to do, but it didn't work, and kind of sat there in the fire for what seemed like forever before the safety crews got there. So, and then when they got him out of there, they kind of immediately lowered him down to the ground. So like Whitey said, you said it's not life threatening. Thank God. Never want to see anyone lose their lives, or get hurt for that matter. But unfortunately, we're in motorsports, right?
Yeah, there
Unfortunately,
is that danger.
These guys know that it's an inherent danger. These things can always happen, especially at a Talladega or a Daytona. So even though we never want to see it, we all know that it's a possibility, and sometimes it does
it's a
happen.
freak accident. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it was just one of those accidents that happen every once in a while that might cause a knee-jerk reaction. But I think this is one where, man, you question safety, and if NASCAR is involved with anything,
They're
it's
working
gonna
on
be
it.
there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
On a brighter note, that was the first ARCA race I've watched this year since Jamie Little has taken over with commentary. I think she does a great job.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to say that. I had that in my notes. I wanted to give her a shout out because
I think
she's
she's
doing a
killing
really
it.
good job. Yeah.
And you want to know what? It's kind of like you said, it was your nap time. Not that Jamie Little's putting me to sleep or anything, but she has a very soothing voice where
Sure.
it's almost
I
like
agree.
it's almost
Yeah.
like watching golf. You watch golf on like a Sunday. It's like, oh, yeah. She has like that golf announcer, but it's for racing.
Yeah.
I thought I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought she did a great job, and she
doing a
always
really
does
good
a
job.
great job on pit road too, every Saturday and Sunday, anyways. But glad to see her, the lead announcer on there. I think that's great. Jumping into the Xfinity Series race, one Jeb Burton won his first race in the Xfinity Series. Big congratulations to him. Of course, it was a rain-shortened race. I'm sure he's not complaining. And Jeb has been one of those guys for years now. He's just been running part-time, catching small rides here and there when he can. Finally, the first time in a full time run this year, and great to see him get another win for Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing just seems to be killing it in the Xfinity Series the last couple of years. Like they are phenomenal.
Absolutely. He didn't, I mean, that wasn't an accident though. Like him winning.
Oh, no.
He led 21 laps during that race. So he, his wild man of a father, Ward Burton, was probably out, wrangling snakes when Jeb won.
I was gonna say, do you guys follow Ward Burton on Twitter?
Yes, he's a madman. But he's
Absolutely
awesome.
insane. If you're not following Ward Burton on Twitter at home, he does he'll pick up snakes with his bare hand and be like, yeah, this is, it's a black mamba racer. It's flying through the Mississippi. It's a little poisonous. You don't want to do what I'm doing. You don't want to agitate it, as he's like agitating it and stuff. He is a fucking wild man.
Yeah, he's crazy. He is wild.
All right, on to the Cup Series race. He led one lap. That's what I'm going to title Brad Keselowski's book. He won one lap. He led one lap, but it was the one that mattered the most. Brad is the 9th winner in 10 races, his 6th win at Talladega, and 35th win overall. I thought this was a pretty interesting stat. I know Matt's the stat man, but I heard this from Larry Mack this morning. Brad has had 6 last lap passes for wins in his career, 4 of which are at Talladega. I thought that was absolutely insane. What did you guys think about Brad K winning the race down at Talladega, the Geico 500?
You know what? I'm okay with it. You know, as far as Brad winning, I thought the race was outstanding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to. I know we kind of put a lot of our back of the race into our grades. I don't know if you just want to get right into the grades.
Yeah, let's jump right into our race grades.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm just going to go ahead and give it, you know, I gave it an A+. I gave it that top tier. If I could have given it an A++, I would have done that.
Yeah.
As we talked about last week, I absolutely love super speedway racing so much. And this past weekend, you know, pretty much hit the nail on the head for exactly what I was looking for. We had side-by-side racing for pretty much most of the race. I think it only went single file for about 15 or 20 laps there in the third stage. But besides that,
which I didn't even mind when they went single file because it was still pretty interesting.
Second to breathe. Yeah, it gave us a second to breathe. But there was multiple lead changes. I think there was 17 different lead changes, and
we had 35 lead changes, 17 different drivers. 7 cautions for 34 laps. Your top 5 is Brad Keselowski, William Byron, Michael McDowell, Kevin Harvick, and Matt DiBenedetto. So, it was interesting. They were swapping the lead like crazy all day long.
It was outstanding. I found myself, you know, Chase was out of it. Chase is my guy. But I found myself at the end of that race with, I'm sure, most of America yelling, "Come on, Matty D, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Just do it. Like, let's go." Like, I was foreseeing a huge NASCAR celebration.
I was and I wasn't because Tyler Reddick was in the mix too.
Yeah,
Tyler Reddick kind of ruined Matt DiBenedetto's day. If you pay attention,
Matt DiBenedetto ruined Matt DiBenedetto's day because
100%
if he stayed on that bottom line, he was going to win that race.
So,
he knew it. He said it right after the race.
Yeah, that post race, he knew it. And that hurt me.
Yeah,
seeing him know that he fucked up, and I'm like, oh, he knows it too. Like, and he can't take that back. It's something that he's gonna have to live with, and hopefully he can get over it soon. But yeah,
But yeah, A++. If I could make up my own grade, I would give it an A++. But on record, an A+ for me. Excellent race.
All right, how about you, Eric? What did you think about the Talladega race? You're the big critic of super speedway racing going into this week, so
I enjoyed the race. I'm not gonna give it an A. I'll give it a B+.
Okay.
It did, you know, give me a little bit of different perspective from years past, I guess, if you want to say that. Like, I was watching this race with last week's episode in mind of, you know, okay, let's try to give this a shot here, Eric. Let's watch this race. And, you know, I was excited for it, and it delivered. I will say that it delivered, like Matt touched on, you know, it was just late in the race where they kind of went single file. And like a lot of that was due to like the fuel, and cars were trying to save, and people were getting out of line so they weren't leading, and no one wanted to lead because
we had some strategy.
We had a lot of strategy. It was great.
That's another element that made it so good.
Yeah, and you know, so like it did bring me back. I guess my love for super speedways, but the side by side was great. I thought that, you know, I mean, this has been controversy, but closing speed, and like there were some times where like a single car were making runs in the middle, and it's like, how is this guy staying there? And then someone would see that they'd get behind him, and 2-3 cars would make a run, and they would fall back, and there was just so much good driving. And you know, there wasn't really that big one, quote unquote, where it took out, you know, 20 plus cars, and you know, that just shows the level of talent that is out there. And I do applaud NASCAR for, you know, making sure all those guys out there are willing to go out and you know, put on a show and be the best of the best out there. Because when you see a picture, and like now that I'm talking about it, it's like you almost have to give it an A, because like there was a picture of those cars. It almost looked fake, like all of them together. Like you couldn't see like the hoods of some of them because they were so close. Like the capture was
wide.
Like going 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that, like the still shots, like, wait, like what? Like, are they're not parked like that? It amazes me. And like that was brought back to me, like the amazement of a super speedway and like what these drivers are putting on there for the fans, and having the fans back there, that was a plus. I just thought the racing all day was great, and like there was no single file stuff, and the teams did work together, but for the most part, it was every man for themselves out there.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was a very heavy team orders type of day that we've seen.
More manufacturer.
I
think Ford's working with Ford, Chevys were working with Chevys,
and
but
even
the teams, it was like whoever was there.
And even that just seemed like they really stuck together during pit stops, like green flag pit stops, and then once they got back onto the track, they were just kind of working with whoever they could find to work with,
I'll say this too. Speaking of Matty D, he's in a contract year next year. As of right now, he doesn't have a ride. What Matty D needs to do with his resume is he needs to take that save that he had yesterday and staple it to his resume, because that dude can wheel a car. When him and Kyle Busch got into it, when Matty D was leading, they were both damn near sideways, and like there wasn't like he didn't lose a spot when he did that. And it was just, I mean, maybe he lost a couple spots, but like the point still stands. Like he didn't lose his car, like it didn't go sideways, he didn't wreck. It was an amazing set of skills that he put on right there, and I was just so impressed by that. Like that, he needs to direct, like anyone he's talking to for a ride next year, he needs to direct them to that video clip, because that proves that kid can drive a car.
And you want to what people say, like, oh, anyone can win in a super speedway. I don't think that's true. I think it does take a true set of talents to win at a super speedway, and Matt DiBenedetto definitely has it. He's just waiting for his time to finally be able to capitalize. And again, like kind of a poor decision jumping out of the bottom lane. I'm going to give the race an A. I wouldn't go as high as an A+. I don't think any race really can be an A+, so I'll give it an A all day long. Maybe if Matt DiBenedetto or Tyler Reddick won, it would have gotten A+ for me.
That's I didn't want to bring it up, and I didn't want to say why I really didn't give it an A. If fucking Kaz Grala in that 16 car doesn't take out Eric Jones,
he really screwed up your day, man.
That's a P5. That's a huge day for Eric Jones and that whole team. That propels us in these next 5-6 weeks, and like it literally just killed my entire. I was so excited all day, edge of my seat, yelling at the TV, and when I saw that, like Dana was sitting next to me, I literally fell back into the couch. I slumped down, and I was just speechless. So if that
times has that happened to Eric Jones, like at like the last,
I know, right. So I'm proud of him. He's a great super speedway racer. He knows how to take care of his car, and he's always there at the end of those races. So like, I know he's gonna be there. He was there. He ran a great race. It's just he just has one of those Almirola days where those Bowman days, and those a couple years ago those Truex days where the luck just isn't behind him. It'll get there. I'm not worried about it, but that's really why I couldn't give it an A. Just that last half a lap there, it just killed me.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So I actually got nervous. I thought Reddick was the one that wrecked EJ, because he was right behind him at the time. I was actually this morning I was watching it on Instagram. I was going like frame by frame, watching all the accidents happen to see what it was. And I'm like, oh, who's in that car? I think it was the 17 or something. Like, who was in the 17? Not the 17. The 16.
I thought it was.
I had to look it up.
Anthony Alfredo at first, and I was gonna.
Well, I think Alfredo was on the outside, or he was on the inside of him too. I was like, oh, thank God it was a Reddick that fucking wrecked Eric Jones. It was Kaz Grala. But you want to know what? You gotta think.
I don't really consider it. It's half a lap. I mean, everyone's back and going. Plus, it looked so blatant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus, like, you have to think too, Kaz Grala has never been a full-time driver in any of the series, really, and this is only his third start in a Cup race, and he's gotten his second top 10 out of 3 starts. So, I mean, there's definitely always room for improvement, but you kind of have to give him a pass there with just
Brett Griffin as his spot.
I'm not mad at it. That's a super speedway incident. It's just, I'm just saying, I'm mad that that happened to him half a lap. Like, you could come in with a top 5. He was going to be pushing Harvick, and there was going to be those 4 cars left alone, and then that's when like shit hit the fan, essentially. He had
Brett Griffin as his spotter, who is Clint Boyer's longtime spotter. Brett Griffin's one of the he's like partially retired now. He's one of the guys actually who does door bumper clear.
Yeah, I listened to his call during the last couple laps of that.
He's one of the best spotters that there is out there. And so that probably helped Kaz Grala a lot yesterday.
And again, that's a Cog racing car. They're trying to break into Cup. I believe next year they're trying to go full-time in Cup. So I'll be excited to see that new team develop. Maybe Kaz will get a full-time ride. I know they're looking at Justin Haley maybe to move up. And of course they have AJ Allmendinger in the throws there too. Now I told you I was watching it frame by frame, and that's why I said Tyler Reddick kind of ruined Matt DiBenedetto's day too, because there was a point where Tyler Reddick got a nice run after DiBenedetto went into the outside lane, and he came up hard on Blaney, kind of took the air off of Blaney's tail. And that's when Blaney dropped back in the middle, and it pulled Matt DiBenedetto back too. So I think that was just like the final nail into DiBenedetto's casket there. And of course, Brad Keselowski pulls off the win in the long run. And you want to
Blaney dropped like a rock too.
Yeah,
that was like, I thought he hit his brakes. Like that's how bad it looked when he went to the middle. He just went way back quick.
Yep. And I felt bad watching that too. I'm like, oh man, because at one point Reddick is in like fourth. I'm like, yes, Tyler, fucking go, let's go. And like nothing happened there.
I think if that top line stayed together, like
it could have been the faster line.
It could have been. I thought it was, but the top line had the more aggressive drivers. The bottom line, they all stayed together. Obviously, they can't go below the double yellow. So like that top line, once they I didn't expect that many cars to try to break out of the pack. And once like 6 or 7 of those cars, some went high, some went to the middle, they just washed each other out. And that top line was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
So
dude, that's why I love super speedway racing so much, because like, especially those last last 2 laps, there's so much to unpack. Like there's just so much like to break down as you're watching these last 2 laps. And it's just like, oh my God, there goes that driver. And here comes that driver. And you have no idea who's going to win the race when there's only a half lap left.
Yeah.
And
you're coming on a turn.
So intense.
You're coming on a turn 4, and there's no guarantee who's going to win at that point. Like you have no idea.
I didn't have a dog in the fight, and I turned to Steph with 1 to go, and I said, I think I'm going to throw up. I'm so nervous right now, and I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I'm so nervous right now because this is going to be. It's always it's organized chaos out there.
Bro, when Eric Jones split went in the middle for that pass, I'm like, and then I heard, I think it was Jeff in the booth goes, oh my God, look at Eric Jones when he went to the middle. Because he had a run. Yeah. He couldn't, he had to go into the middle, and he made it work. And I'm like, oh shit, he got through. Like you're saying
how
that.
Are they
I
doing
was
this?
almost throwing up, yelling at the TV, like, oh my God. And there's still a full lap to fucking go. I'm like, geez, it's just, the intensity factor, man, is it there at Super Speedway.
Because it ramps up with 5 to go, with 4 to go, with 3 to go. Here we go. And then it just I know yesterday, there was the overtime, so there wasn't like that countdown kind of, but most of the time, oh my God, it's just so much fun to watch. I love it.
And as the cliches go too, cautions breed cautions. So the whole entire time you're waiting for that big one that never came to happen, just to see if something would happen. Like I remember at one point it was Daniel Suarez's car jumped right out of line and just dropped anchor. I don't know what the hell happened to him. He was running in the top 10, and I think he finished in 30th or something. I don't know if he got nervous, he got scared, he thought the big one was going to come, so he jumped out of line. But that's my checkers for the race. If you guys want to jump into it,
let's go.
I'm giving the checkers to no big one. A lot of people enjoy the big one. I enjoy some wrecks here and there.
I like that.
I didn't want to see the big one yesterday. I wanted to see the race play out exactly the way it did, because then there's no talking. You can't be like, oh, well, they were only up front because everyone else got wrecked or whatever. You saw the regular super speedway players, and there are a lot of great super speedway racers out there. And we saw them up front. Like you said, Eric Almirola had a pretty good day most of the day. We saw Bubba win his first stage and lead some laps throughout the day. Eric Jones had a lot of good runs. Denny Hamlin, of course, was in front pretty much all day until he got into, that wreck with Joey Logano and there was some damage. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., there are those guys that I enjoy watching at super speedways, because then at the end they are making those moves. And it's a cliche to say, but it truly is chess at 200 miles per hour. And I thought it was a great race yesterday. But yeah, my checkers is, long green flag runs and no big one. I loved it. I love seeing pit strategies try to play out. There were some guys that only took 2 tires. There were some guys that had a set of tires for the end, and other guys didn't,
The tires, Whitey, that you just brought up.
Yeah.
I was surprised at a super speedway.
Yeah.
They had a difference.
Tires were.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Normally Daytona, you could run that whole race on the one set of tires. Like, it doesn't really affect the racing that much. But here at Talladega, oh my gosh, tires meant a lot. And like, I didn't expect that to be a factor, because those cars, those fresh tires, man, did they have runs. And they, like, Eric Jones kind of got,
it was a
he
big
was in
difference.
a shitty spot because he was leading the race at the time. And you're not going to pit for new tires because you're in first. You're going to go back to 25th. And it's like, stay out there. But him and it was a few others. And man, they got swallowed up by those new tires. The handling, it seemed like without those fresh tires, the handling just went away on those cars, which at a super speedway, to have the tires be involved too. Yeah. Damn, I forgot about that. I might have to just stick with a straight up, hey, dude, like, I'm talking myself right back into this.
It was a great race up and down. It gave me everything I want to see in a NASCAR race. And,
absolutely.
How about you guys? You want to do we'll go all around with the checkers, and then we'll get into our records after that. Matt, what was your checkers for this week?
My checkers was lap 60, just lap 60. And here's
was that the end of stage 1?
Yep. It might have been the most popular lap of the season. So Matty D won the stage, everyone, he's America's favorite underdog. I think that was his first stage win ever too, right? Yes, it was. Yeah. All while, and I can say this now because we know he's okay and he's safe, all while Joey Logano was just flipping.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I almost gave my checkers to the camera in Bubba Wallace's car.
What a shot. That looked like a video game.
They're gonna run that replay for the rest of our lives when it comes to racing at Talladega, as far as the highlight package. That if anyone who's listening to us hasn't seen it, please do yourself a favor and just, go on Google or Twitter or whatever and type in Bubba Wallace Talladega. It's going to be the first video that pops up.
Yeah.
It was Bubba Wallace drove literally, it was seen out of Fast and Furious.
You dove Bubba sideways drove,
underneath Joey Logano's flipping car.
And honestly, I think just the spoiler of Logano's car kind of nicked the top
nicked the
top.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I just thought that was the craziest lap that I've seen in a long time. That I don't know how half the field didn't get taken out, because that happened right in the front of the pack too. So
and the only people that really had damage, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had a little damage. Didn't affect him. He was running fine after that until he got into something else later on. And then Bubba actually ran one of the fastest laps on track after his car got hit. So maybe it helped with some aerodynamics there and cut the wind.
But I mean, just amazing ability from all those drivers to just avoid that. Could have been the big one, should have probably been the big one, and everyone avoided it. So I mean, just everything that happened on lap 60 gets my checkers.
I was not to keep bringing up Tyler Reddick, but I was listening to his radio at the time, and of course there's a little bit of a delay, so you hear it happening on the radio before you see it on television. And he was freaking out because he's like, I should have stuck to plan. I shouldn't have been pushing. I think they wanted to stay back a little bit, but they were pushing for those stage points, and he was the car right in front of Bubba. He could have been caught up in that wreck too if he didn't kind of gun it underneath, and him and Austin Dillon dove to the inside of the track, and they were thankfully safe. And unfortunately, for Logano, he took a little bit of a tumble. I don't think many people are upset to see him out of the rest of the race. And of course, I don't wish any ill will on him. I was glad he was safe and sound, but I feel like he got a little bit of a taste of his own medicine on that one when it comes to super speedway racing. We'll get into that later on in the Pickle Lane segment. But Eric, what was your checkers for this weekend?
My checkers, I'm going to go individual driver here and someone we haven't talked about in a while, but is still hanging in there and still just surprising the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's Michael McDowell, man. Once again,
Daytona. Oh, I thought you were going to say Quinn Houff.
coming in here to Talladega, went on a kind of a little slump here in the last few races, but still hanging in there in the points and doing what he needs to do to stay in the points race. Even though he has that win, it's not a fluke. It's not like, Michael McDowell won the 500. He's locked in the playoffs. It's going to be another one of those spots taken up. I thought that at first, to be honest with you. But what I've seen out of that team, they've been really impressing me, and they're still in there. So maybe I could go sleepers in general as my checkers, because I really did like what I saw to Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece. And some of these guys that, were up there all day and maybe don't get the TV time or the notoriety, but there's some guys at these super speedways and not just the super speedways, but that are in the top 20 and top 15 in points that normally aren't there, and they're holding.
They're
strong,
having solid years,
and we're right, and we're more than quarter of a way through the season, and they're still hanging in there. So Michael McDowell and those small teams still hanging in there, running well this year. I had to give my checkers to those guys. They're outperforming themselves for sure.
Oh yeah, and you know what? You make a great point too, just about like lower funded teams and staying consistent. Right now Michael McDowell's 13th in the points. I think last year you would have been surprised if he broke the top 25 in points. They took that Daytona money, they really put it in. I know McDowell just did a commercial for, I think it's like autoparts.com or something, one of his new sponsors. But yeah, even guys like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who, when he was at Roush, everyone kind of made a joke out of Ricky. He was a real aggressive driver. He put himself into some bad situations. He'd wreck people. Right now, he's sitting 15th in the points, and deservingly so. He's been having a hell of a season for
quiet. He's been having a quiet year because he hasn't been Ricky Stenhouse this year. He hasn't been. And
even Chris Buescher, who's in that 17 car for Roush now, he's in 16th, and he's been solid every week. And we know Roush isn't the greatest equipment. It's not like it was in the 90s and early 2000s when Mark Martin was in there. I would say it's a shell of itself, or of its former self. And even, shout out to Austin Dillon. People really shit on Austin Dillon for a lot of years, saying he's a silver spoon kid. He's sitting 12th in the points. He's pulling out solid top 10s every other week or so. And he had a great playoff run last year, and I assume he's going to have a pretty good run this year. I want to say, though, I think someone that's having the best season out of pretty much anyone that they're not talking about is William Byron. Byron, I feel like, is having a career year for any driver, let alone a young driver like he is, and no one's talking about him.
That was going to be my checkers, but he was my checkers like for 3 weeks. I was constantly talking about Willie B, and I think 1 week it was Hendricks was my checkers, and then another. So it's like I didn't want to seem like I was like on like the Willie B bandwagon here, but man,
he's putting together a great season.
Yeah, he's impressing me, man. I think 8 out of the last 10. Or 8, he has 8 top 10s or
something crazy.
Come on, it's like
crazy.
This dude deserves that ride, and he deserves a little bit more attention. 100% Whitey.
And you want to what? Like last year, I didn't think William Byron was going to be able to hold on to his ride, because I didn't think the performance was there until he won that Daytona cutoff race to get into the playoffs. They had a decent run in the playoffs, but this year, new crew chief, things are just clicking, and William Byron having a great season. Do you boys want to jump into our wreckers?
Let's do it.
All right, Matt, you want to go first on the wreckers?
Yeah, my wreckers goes to Kyle Larson's crew for leaving that metal sheet or shield or whatever that was. So for anyone that doesn't know, Kyle Larson pretty much blew up on like the first lap or two, and it's because his crew left some sort of transportation device inside the engine. That needs to obviously be taken out
like a metal. I guess it was like a metal sheet that covered the radiator, just in case something punctured through the front bumper. It wouldn't puncture the radiator in transit.
Okay, well they left that in there, and obviously you can't do that. He overheated, blew his engine.
Yeah.
You can't do that. If I'm Mr. Hendrick, I'm figuring out whose responsibility that is. And I know this sounds like heavy-handed or whatnot, but like that person needs to be suspended at the least for a few races, because he just blew that engine.
Yeah.
And that's not a cheap.
He cost Rick Hendrick a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's not a cheap
lap.
That
No.
One.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, Kyle Larson had 1 lap on the day. And you're right. It does sound heavy-handed, but like that is a lot of money that just got thrown out the door from a simple mistake. And I was gonna say too, like, you know, that just goes to show we need practice. But even still, if that car got out on track during practice, it still would have overheated. They would have had to change an engine that weekend and gone back to the back of the pack.
But at
anyways,
least would have had a shot at the race.
Yeah.
You know, like that just it's unfair for that. And that's huge, man. That's 39 possible points that he missed, or more even, if he had won that race and stayed up front for most of the race. So
this is the top level of the sport. You can't make those kind of mistakes, even if you're just the road crew and stuff.
Yeah, you can't make those mistakes. So I mean, that's going to get my records for sure. I just can't believe I've been a fan my whole life, 31 years, and I've never heard of something like that happening. That's unbelievable. Huge, costly mistake. So the number 5 crew gets my records.
All right, Eric, how about you? What was your records for this week?
My records is my driver. I'm wrecking Eric Jones because he wrecked my weekend.
Okay.
You know, it's just, I had to do it just for the pure fact that, like, he managed his car all day.
Yeah.
And, like, that last, I know it wasn't any of his doing. I know it's a super speedway racing, but, you know, he's going through there. And as much as I want to blame Kaz for all of that, I think there was a little bit of miscommunication. It looked like he started going down. He might have thought something was to the outside of him, and he was in a weird spot in the middle. But, you know, all day long to keep your car together and to be the pretty much one of the only cars in that last, you know, lap to spin out. Like,
yeah,
come on, man. You know, that's, I'm wrecking him just for the fact that he couldn't do that there. Like, bring that car home one piece. You had a solid day. You knew what you were doing. You can't do that. I'm putting that in my driver there. I know spotter might have been something to do with it and other team spotters, but, you know, bring that car home. You know, you were right there half a lap away. You know, I'm hoping that by me wrecking my driver here that, you know, a little bit will come full circle and come back around for him here.
The luck will turn around for next week.
I might be giving him the checkers pretty soon. So I'm hoping to wreck him, you know, bring him down to hopefully maybe boost him back up here.
All right, I like it. What would you rather? Would you rather see him go out like that, or would you rather see something happen with a big one and see him get wrecked out in a big one?
What lap is the big one?
Same lap.
Oh man, that's tough. I mean,
big one for me.
I'd rather the big one. Let then it's everybody's taken out. You know, like it just seemed like, okay, everyone's eyes were on that, right? And his car, beautiful car, I have to admit. And like, you know, that paint scheme, your eyes went to it. It was noticeable. Last half a lap, everyone that's watching, your eyes are on that, and you're the one that spun. You know what I mean? So like that camera view, everyone saw one car spin, and whose car was that? The 43 fucking car. And it's like, it was just so disheartening. Like no one else did that. We went 200 fucking laps. Guess what? You know what I mean? It's like, come on, you made it that far.
Joey Logano did that too a little earlier in the race. So. Yeah. At least he's in good company that way.
I mean, he came home like 27th or something, so it wasn't a DNF. It wasn't, you know, 39th like Larson. So I can't really complain about that. But a 27th versus maybe a possible top 5, top 10 is huge for that team. So,
all right, for my records, I got to give it to my man in the 00, Quinn Houff. Lap 155, green flag pit stops, and he comes down from the outside lane and gets into, I believe it was Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who's in the 47.
Ricky went sliding down and
slid into the retaining wall on the inside. Yeah. Already damaged on that one corner to begin with. That kind of screwed up Ricky's day. I would have been even more furious if they threw the yellow flag as all those Chevys were entering pit road. That would have screwed up a whole lot of drivers. There was 15 drivers pitting at the time, and that is the second time that Quinn Houff has tried to pit from the outside lane. I don't know if it's a spotter issue. I don't know if it's on his end or what, but it needs to be addressed. It's a Quinn.
That's what I was going to say. That's the second high-profile time that's happened with Quinn Houff specifically.
Yeah,
and I know, speaking of heavy-handed, I'm going to sound pretty heavy-handed here. Like, that's a safety issue. Like, once you get to do that one time. Now that it's happened a second time, and now this time it was at a super speedway race, like, dude, you're gonna hurt someone. Like, that's not
because
I'm
you're
not a race car driver. I don't know what it's like out there. So I'll say it with a grain of salt, but like, that's now the second time. Like, you get paid to do this. Like, you cannot make those mistakes over and over again. Like, he's gonna hurt someone, man. Like, he's got enough's enough.
Especially at a speedway race, because that is someone's life is in danger. You're entering pit road, coming off the apron, going about 190 as you're slowing down. You're trying to slow down to 60 miles per hour, whatever pit road speed is, and you're going to come down into Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at the same time. I mean, unacceptable. And then again, lap 172, he gets into the wall and causes a caution, completely messes up the complexion of the race. If that doesn't happen, who knows? Maybe Matt DiBenedetto is your winner yesterday. I know it's a lot of ifs and buts, but just those little things that I don't think necessarily should happen at the highest level in NASCAR,
I agree, Whitey. And I was thinking about this today when we were kind of doing a little show prep and, coming up with some topics, and we were talking pick a lane. And one thing that I thought of, and I mean, I didn't bring it up at the time because not really like anything that could change, or it's, I don't know, tinfoil hat if you want to say, but at these super speedway races, I feel like, okay, you have your 36 charters, and then they allow, so many drivers to try to get into a race.
And to qualify.
I don't think they should allow these drivers to qualify in, because the ones that have to qualify into that race, they're going to be not the greatest drivers. They're going to be the Quinn Houffs. They're going to be the Copewares. And
that's the thing, though. Quinn Houff is a charter driver. Like, he is guaranteed in every week, and maybe.
I was going to get
to that. I always bust you about having a batshit crazy idea. You're good for one every episode. This isn't that time, man. I completely agree with you on this one.
I think if you're like, they should only take the top 25 in points, and you run that race or something. Like, I just think there's a certain 10 drivers that just have no business being on that racetrack at a super speedway, and you see it every year. Those are the same ones that legitimately hit the wall, cause those cautions that ruin actual contenders' days. And I mean, it's like kind of picking and choosing, hey, you can't run this. And but you look at the data, Whitey, I'm sure if we go back and look at who causes like the little
majority of wrecks and stuff,
those little bullshit
the back
ones
of the pack ones.
Back of the pack. Like, it's always those guys. Like, what are you doing? Just get out of the race. Like,
it's
other races, half miles, like short tracks, whatever, lap traffic, you can get around them. They don't really are that big of a deal there. But super speedways, get out of there.
Yeah.
I just think they have to do something as far as like saying, hey, if you're in the top 30 in points, you're only allowed to race or something. Like, I don't know the qualifications, but there should be something more to be done.
I don't know, maybe some sort of more stringent testing process. I know a lot of people were talking about the testing process with Jennifer Jo Cobb last week, because they didn't allow her to race in Talladega this week because they didn't see her as being fit enough to drive in the Cup Series at a super speedway.
I think it's not to me the driver at super speedways as much. It's the equipment that these teams are bringing.
The problem.
I think the drivers are fine. I think Jennifer Jo Cobb, I think she would have done fine in that race. I just think the equipment that Jennifer Jo Cobb would have been in is the issue.
Would have been bad, yeah.
It would have been bad. You can't keep up. They can't keep. Why do you think they're qualifying in? Like, they're barely making it into this race, and now you want them to stay with the lead pack? And then like when they're not with the lead pack, they're with 3 other cars, and those 3 cars are for some weird reason not working together to get to the front pack. They're just hitting each other. It's like, what are you doing back there?
Eric, I'll say what you're not saying. I mean, yeah, it is mostly the car, but for some of those guys, and especially like Quinn Houff now, like it's the decision making. Some of them just aren't making the best decisions, and that's dangerous. Like I don't care what equipment you're in, if you're making some of the decisions that Quinn Houff repeatedly makes, I mean, something's gonna happen eventually where we're all gonna say we saw this coming. Like we won't be able to be surprised when something happens where he takes someone out and ruins someone's day because of a
and you know what too? I mean, like I just thought of this too. Like I was bitching last week when I said I didn't like how the teams, some of them would go to the back and like kind of work and like kind of stay out of trouble, and like then move your way up. I liked that strategy for certain reasons, but those guys are always in the back, so they don't know. Let's say there is a big one. Now the Quinn Hoffs, now those people are up front. They have never raced in that lead pack that close. Yeah. So like that to me is the issue too sometimes, is the fact that they don't run up front enough to even have the experience.
Yeah.
No,
Eric got himself so worked up he almost threw up.
Yeah. I mean, so like that's why I want Eric Jones to run up front instead of riding around with Kyle Busch in the back, so that Eric,
in case something happens,
Yeah, so he knows what to do. Like, why do you think Brad has so many of those last lap passes? Because he's always up there. He has that experience up front. You just don't need experience at Talladega. You don't need experience in the Cup car. I think you need experience up front and with the contenders. Because those are the people you have to work with. Those are the people's brains you have to sync up with. Yeah. And if you're never around them, you have no
You're not going to be able to read them,
Nope, not at all.
And like, especially a super speedway, that plays so much into it. Like you have to be able to trust the guy in front of you, beside you, and behind you. And if you don't, then, that's when trouble really happens. You can't predict the moves that they're going to make, That's why everyone complains about bad blocks, I
mean, I thought Eric Jones was going to have a bad block. He went up in front of Matty D, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, Eric lucked out on that. Matty definitely checked up. Yeah. But, like, I mean, Eric, he's been out front on super speedways, like, enough at Daytona, led some laps there where he has the experience, but still not the experience of a Denny Hamlin or of a Brad Keselowski or Logano.
Where they're constantly up front,
Where they're comfortable making that block, or they know when to make the block and when not to. So I think that is a factor too, that those fucking guys are just racing each other in the back, just playing smash up derby.
Can I tell you a dumb story about me iRacing this past week?
Of course.
So this past week, iRacing schedule usually mimics the NASCAR schedule pretty closely. And I was racing the Xfinity Series on Talladega. And literally every race I've been in this week, nobody pits because it's a fixed race. You don't need to worry about gas mileage. Tires aren't really a factor in Talladega. Well, I like to sit in the middle of the pack. I'll let the pack kind of go and I'll watch those guys push. I'll stay right behind the main pack. That way I don't lose the draft, but I could see the accidents happening far enough in front of me, right? So we're like midway through the race. The big one kind of happens. I think 4 guys get wrecked out, but then the whole entire front pack decided to pit. I don't know why. I don't know why they chose to get tires.
So you were up front.
It put me on the front row. It was me and another guy. I'm starting on a restart in P2. And when I tell you, now this is a video game. When I tell you my foot was shaking on the accelerator, it was shaking.
I would have paid $1 million to be a fly on the wall inside that room.
And so my foot's fucking shaking like crazy. My hands are sweating. I'm getting nervous because one, I don't want to jump the restart and cause like a black flag or whatever, get black flags for passing the leader. And it's shaking. And like, I don't want anyone.
If iRacing ever caught hold of our podcast, you'd be booted, man.
Oh yeah. And like, I almost keyed up on the mic to let everyone know, like, hey man, I'm real nervous. I'm gonna be dropping back as soon as we get this thing going. But as soon as it gets going, well, here's the thing. As soon as it gets started, I'm pretty good at restarts. Everyone starts in third gear. I always start in second. I don't spin my tires. I get a good fucking launch, and it pushes me into first. So now I'm in first, and I'm shaking even worse because I have no business leading this race, and like people are being real aggressive and starting to push, and I kind of just. I cut over and I got real close to the wall. I fell back, and I think to about fifth or sixth.
Did you
because
have the Bump and Run podcast on?
Oh yeah, of course. I have the Bump and Run podcast logo and everything.
Come on.
Listen, it was
You gotta have the confidence.
it was nerve wracking
You
though.
gotta have confidence.
I've only been iRacing for about 2 months. My confidence level is not there yet. And you want to know what? I did almost win a race. I was in position to win in the last lap, and I did cause a big one in that one. But that's a whole different story altogether there. Whoever I wrecked is not listening to the Bump and Run podcast, I'll tell you that. But like I said, I couldn't imagine being, of course, these guys are all pros. They've done it. They've got nerves of steel. They're adrenaline junkies. I'm sure their legs aren't shaking.
Professionals. For anyone who isn't familiar with iRacing, is like you can get on there on any given day. Like you could be racing against Dale Jr. himself.
Yeah.
Like it's not out of the question.
But I see people screenshots all the time with I'm on iRacing and I'm racing against, Dale Jr. or Chase Briscoe or someone that's in there.
I raced against Jeremy Mayfield in an ARCA race about 2 months ago, and he spanked us. He was way faster than everybody. He was in the lower split. Like it's all by ranking. He was ranked real low. I don't know what had happened to him that he got ranked so low to be in a race with me.
I don't want to get into it now, but the Jeremy Mayfield story, that's a pretty intense one. If anyone has time, look that up.
But I'm just saying, I couldn't imagine being a Cup Series driver on a restart in Talladega. I'm sure their legs aren't shaking quite as much as mine. I'm sure the nerves are there, especially if you're like an Eric Jones. You're not used to leading. You get that big run,
Exact same thing to Dana, dude. I go, could you imagine right now? I go, Eric Jones. I go, he's leading at Talladega. It's like you're about to restart. Like, what does that even feel like? You know what I mean? I go, because I was telling her, I go, she knew how nervous I was in the moment. Like you said, my palms were sweaty, and I'm sitting on the couch watching just because it's my favorite driver. And I'm like, imagine what Eric's feeling in that car. Like, okay, here's the fucking green flag. You go.
Who knows? Maybe his foot was shaking.
Could have been, yeah.
All right. You think there's anything else that we missed on this week's breakdown of Talladega? Anything you guys wanted to get to?
No, covered everything that I had. You brought up the Willem Byron thing, which that was the only other little note that I had was about him a little bit.
Again,
but you did bring that up.
He's having a great season.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, other than that, Denny still not the best finish, but still leading the points with no wins. And that just goes to show you how important stage points are. He has 5 stage wins, 8 top 10s and 8 top 5s in 10 races. So he is leaps and bounds better than the field. He's got to get a win soon. It's happening. Same with I'm gonna say Kevin Harvick had a great weekend this weekend. Him and Eric Almirola kind of getting SHR back up front. Hopefully they can continue into it next week. One guy who did not have the best luck, we talked a little bit about it. Of course, here on the Bump and Run podcast, we like to spotlight the guy who came in last this week. It was one Kyle Larson. Of course, he has 1 win on the season, currently locked into the playoffs. His day ended 1 lap in after his engine blew, and we got into all that, so no need to really harp on it. Do you guys want to do a pick a lane?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I got one pick a lane this week. It, of course, involves one Joey Logano. He complained right after his flip during the Cup race that, they need to make an aero change to keep these cars on the ground. What do you guys think about that? Do you think it's NASCAR's responsibility to adjust the cars to keep them out of the air? Or do you think it's a driver problem? I have an interesting stat that I have on my phone. I'll bring it up. But what do you guys think about Joey Logano's comments after the race?
I thought they were tasteless. I thought they were classless. I thought that he might not own a mirror in his house because he doesn't know how to do any type of self-reflection. I know as far as the safety issue is concerned, like, yes, it is on NASCAR to figure that out, and they do. I know Steve Phelps was on the morning drive this morning, and he said that that NASCAR has their own set of engineers that's going to be talking to the Penske engineers to figure out maybe what could be done a little differently going forward in the future. I know NASCAR is very proactive with their safety. We haven't lost anyone since Dale Earnhardt in 2001. So that goes to prove it.
Even after the Newman crash at Daytona last year, they bumped down the horsepower by I think it was 20 horsepower and stuff. So they're constantly looking to evolve and make changes where necessary.
Yeah. And so what Logano essentially said was, like, they need to change the super speedway program because it's too dangerous. Cars are flipping. It's not safe. It's not this. It's not that. And I think that's just super rich coming from the most aggressive driver that we have out there. How many wrecks has he caused from throwing on a super aggressive block? How many, it's not, we've been flipping cars at super speedways since the frickin' 60s, since the 70s. Like, it happens.
Before that, I saw videos of cars rolling over on the sand dunes in Daytona in the 50s. The 40s.
It happens. And you know what? It happens a lot less often now than it does. So they're making those leaps and bounds as far as safety goes. I thought Joey Logano was way off the mark when he said that. Putting my thoughts on him personally aside, if Chase Elliott came out and said that, I would have thought it was completely off the mark. I thought he didn't have any right saying what he said, and it just seems like whenever something doesn't go his way is when he comes out and says these
complain
things.
about it.
He's going to complain about it, and that's one of the reasons why he's the most, or one of the least liked drivers out there, from within the garage and from the fans. So it's just, I don't know. I think he digs himself a hole. I don't think he had a leg to stand on as far as anything that he said, and those are my thoughts.
All right, Eric, what lane are you choosing on this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Matt here. The safety thing, I could see that 100%. Those comments, I get that. But like Matt said, like, there were a couple of the people on NASCAR Twitter today. I think it might have been, he posts, somebody said, a little bit of this is in the driver's hands. You know what I mean? Like, the drivers, they know, like, how close to get pulled in and when to so it's not all on the car and the aero. The driver has a lot to do with it. Like we talked about, the experience that matters. So I just think Joey, once again, on the losing end of it.
Yeah.
So he was just crying. He was just crying about it. He didn't want to take responsibility. I think if he was on the other end of this and he didn't wreck out and he stayed like Denny, where Denny kind of got shoved back, straightened out.
Yeah.
That's just speedway racing. You know what
Pretty
I mean?
much.
Like, he would have said something like that. You know what I mean? That's just super speedway racing.
If he caused the big one and he wasn't about it. Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'm just keeping my position.
Too is, like, the wreck wasn't even Joey's fault. Like, it wasn't his fault that was happening. It's just part of the game. Like if you don't want that to happen, don't strap yourself into the car before the race. I'm sorry. Yeah. I know that's
he was just salty, and like you said, Matt, how many times did he cause that and never came out and said, "Oh, it was on me." No,
I threw a bad block.
Wrecked out. He was pissed. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, he's just being salty. But the safety thing is a huge ordeal. So he kind of saved his ass with that by bringing that up and kind of twisting that in. So I think that saved him a little bit. But
the other thing is like, he had he called the Xfinity race the day before. He had an entire race to talk about this, to bring it up at some point, and he never had an issue about it until it happened to him. So I'm not willing to throw him a bone on this one. Like, I don't mean to I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, like, I don't mean to like completely shit on him every week like we do, but he just does and says stuff.
I'm going to come to his defense in a second. So you can shit on him.
Okay. Well,
I just think the safety thing helped him. He kind of wrapped that in.
Yeah.
I think he knew what he was doing in that interview, like how to word it.
Yeah.
But I think NASCAR, is going to do something about the super speedway program. I really do. Like after the Newman incident, they addressed it. Like Whitey said, on those,
They added another bar to the roll cage to help to make sure that it didn't cave in and
like the
stuff.
restrictor plate, they went to that spacer.
Yep.
They closed the hole in that spacer by like 20 millimeters or whatever it was to, like you said, to bring that.
I think it brought it down
horsepower
either like 20 or 40 horsepower or something like that, which is a sizable.
550 to 510.
Yeah.
From 550 to 510.
Yeah, so it's 40 horsepower.
So they did do certain things to help that out safety wise. So I would assume they're going to do something on that. No drastic things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I agree. Super speedways, that shit's going to happen. I'm sorry. This is the sport you're in. Deal with it.
So I'm going to come to Joey Logano's defense just a tiny bit. I agree. I think he was just kind of complaining. He did tie the safety thing in. But again, it was literally moments after the wreck. So I'm going to give him a pass on that one. Larry Mack today actually did say, like, there's one thing in common with all these speedway flipovers and whatnot, and it is it's the driver. The driver is the main thing. Matt, did we lose you there?
I don't. So
all right, I lost you on video, but we got audio, so that's all that matters. But yeah, Larry Mack, who is friends with Joey Logano and the family, he flat out said it. He goes, the safety is not an issue. Obviously, the safety is there. They kept it all right. He was just fine. He was just a little riled. Joey Logano is one of the taller drivers, though, and he said he hit his head on one of the roll cage bars. So I wonder if that had something to do with it. Maybe that's why he was a little angry. Maybe he got his dome rattled a little bit and he came off there. But I agree, because you want to know what, Joey Logano, if he throws a bad block and he wrecks someone, he's not going to take ownership of that either. So I don't know. It is kind of hard to defend a guy sometimes like that. But I did see a pretty interesting statistic on NASCAR Reddit. This is from, let's see, Crazy Punk 13.
Great name.
NASCAR has actually done an incredible job keeping cars on the ground. If you look at every blowover in the Gen 6 era, you'll notice a similarity. The cars stay on the ground until hit by another car or the car is damaged, allowing more air under the car. I'm only counting actual blowover flips, not weight shifts from like Kurt Busch and Chris Buescher at Talladega, or flips after a wall impact like Ryan Newman at Daytona. And remember, he hit the wall before he got airborne. Clint Boyer in Daytona 2014, Clint is sideways and doesn't catch air until hit by David Reagan. 2015 Daytona, Austin Dillon is spinning and gets hit by Denny Hamlin, which causes the 3 to ramp up the wheel of the number 11. Matt Kenseth, Talladega 2016. Matt goes over without extra contact, but the damage to his car allowed air to get underneath it and send him flipping over. And it goes on and on. They break down every single one. And if you look at all these wrecks, it's not the cars getting airborne because of the speed. It's the cars getting airborne because they're too close in the pack and they got hit. Something disrupted the air around it, and it brought them and lifted them up. So for Joey Logano to say this is a NASCAR issue with aero, obviously they've been putting in the work. They make the back bumpers lower to keep as much air out of the bottom of the car as possible to reduce that takeoff speed. So yeah, he did say like, oh, we're getting bigger runs than ever. But again, you get a big run, maybe, I don't know, maybe you lift a little bit. You don't need to take every single run, especially if it could put yourself in danger. And
especially him.
Yeah, he is the most aggressive.
He's so aggressive.
The most aggressive plate track driver. So so I will defend, they interviewed him right after he got out of the car. Maybe he's got a different tune today. I don't know. After things have calmed down,
a lot of drivers
get
say that.
emotional.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, they say, you know what? Give me a day.
But I think for him to complain about NASCAR not doing enough, I think NASCAR is doing everything they can and more. And if you look at the new next gen car too, it actually has a small spoiler. It has air dampers underneath the back bumper that'll bring more downforce to the bottom of the car.
The next gen car, though, Whitey, I did read, and I was going to bring that up. during the segment about the whole super speedway and flipping thing. The new next gen car, the underneath is more sealed off than this car.
Yeah.
So like that might be a bad thing, because now if that's more sealed off, that's just, and once the air gets under that, guess
then
what?
it becomes then
it becomes an issue. So I'm wondering if they have to work out some kinks with this next gen car on super speedway.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe they'll drop down the power. Maybe they'll restrict it to where maybe you don't see those 200-mile-per-hour speedway races. Maybe you only see them top out at 185 or 190, like a truck series car. You know,
that was the first thing that people were bringing up as far as directly involved in the sport. Spotters, crew chiefs. You know, they were basically saying, "Hey, show we put on, it's just as exciting at 200 miles an hour as it is at 185.
Yeah.
You don't really notice the difference."
No.
So like, but that 20 miles an hour, as far as the science and
it makes a huge difference.
Roll or flip, that makes all the difference.
Oh, yeah.
So like, if they could slow them down a little bit, you know, that just being at that lower speed, the flips and the data says it doesn't happen as often. So maybe they do really dial it back even more with that spacer.
Yeah. I think NASCAR does its best, and we'll see if Joey Logano is on the morning show on NASCAR radio every Thursday or Friday. We'll see if his tune changes. But we're getting a little late in the day. Let's jump into next week's race. We're going to Kansas for the Buschy McBusch Race 400 at Kansas Speedway. 260 laps for 400 miles, 3 p.m. on FS1. Your starting lineup, according to Bob Pockrass's math, so it may be subject to change. Front row is going to be Keselowski and William Byron. Your second row, Michael McDowell and Kevin Harvick. Third row, Matt DiBenedetto and Austin Dillon. Rounding out the fourth row, Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell. And rounding out your top 10, ninth place will be Kyle Busch and Cole Custer, who is kind of a sneaky speedway racer. He did a great job this past week in Talladega. Someone told me to take him in fantasy, and I did it, and I regret that decision now. You guys want to get into our picks for Kansas? Matt, I know you've got some stats. I'll read off some stats from last week, our previous picks. I chose Matt DiBenedetto. He got me 42 points. Denny Hamlin was Matt's pick. He got him 12 points. And Eric Dovin had the race winner picked with Brad Keselowski and changed his mind during it and went with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He got you a total of 7 points. So Eric, whoever you're thinking, whoever your instinct is this weekend, go with it. Don't change it. Don't change it.
I know. I have one in my head. And then before the show ran, I told Matt, let me hear your stats.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of unsure. So maybe I just go with my gut here.
All right, Matt, you want to give us some stats on Kansas Speedway?
Yes, sir. My back is can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah,
We're back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, we're going to Kansas. I have some stats. So last year's winner in the summertime, because keep in mind, COVID pushed everything back. Denny Hamlin won that one. And then our buddy Joey Logano won the fall playoff race. One little thing, and this has nothing to do with fantasy or gambling, but the race length, as I kind of stumbled upon this as I was looking up some stats for Kansas. So last year's summer race was 3 hours and 17 minutes. That's the longest time-wise the race has been for Kansas in like 8 or 9 years. All the other races were right around that 3-hour window that we love.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good news for us. I thought that was a cool little thing to see, because we always talk about, keeping those races in shorter windows.
That reminded me, sorry to cut you off. How great was it having an early start for Talladega this week? The race ended and it was still sunny outside. Got to walk the dog while it was still sunny outside. It was great. All right, back into the stats though.
All right, so if you guys want to win some money this week, to all our listeners, here we go. So as always, I take the last 4 races as stats of the last 2 years, because they run twice at Kansas every year.
Yeah.
The average finishes inside the top 10. So some surprising things I saw here. Chase Elliott has the best average finish inside the top 10 at 6, tied with his teammate Bowman. Brad Keselowski is at a 6.5. Harvick has a 7th place average finish. Hamlin with an 8.3. Eric, your boy, Eric Jones, has an 8.8 average finish at Kansas. And then MTJ rounds out that top 10 with a 9.3. Laps led, you have Denny with 268 laps led in the last 4 races, Kevin Harvick with 198, and then everybody else either has double digits or single digits, so I wasn't going to mention them. And then the wins, like I said, Denny has 2 in the last 4, and then Keselowski and Logano each have 1. So those are your stats. Take with them what you will and go win some money.
All right, and for picks, I'm going first, and I'm kind of like last week. I'm a little unprepared.
Oh,
I had
there should be a clock, like
I had
like
a shot
this
clock.
week is the NFL draft, so to be timely with this, I'm gonna say you have 30 seconds on the clock, and then it's moving on. You lose your pick.
I want to say Denny, because I think a win is due for him. But if I remember correctly, Kansas is usually a night race, is it not?
Yeah, but it's not.
Yes.
This year they're running it in the day, so I think the setup's going to be a little different. Did they run it in the day last year?
I want to say they did.
They did, and
the fall race was probably a night race, but I want to say the summer race was day.
I want to go with Denny. I really do.
You told me to go with your gut, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
with your gut.
I'm gonna go with Denny Hamlin this week. He's got to get it done. I mean, like I said earlier, he's leading the points. He has so many stage wins, all those top 5s. It's gotta amount to something this week, and he's got to get that win. He's got to get locked into the playoffs. I don't think he could go another couple weeks without a win.
All right, that leaves me up to bat here, and I'm gonna do something that I haven't done this year. I try to stay away from it, but I'm gonna go bias. I'm gonna go with my boy Chase this week. He's got to turn it around. He was pretty much non-existent at Talladega, and everyone else in that stable is running so good. We talked about William Byron. All 3 of his teammates have wins, and I think Chase is the next one up. So Chase Elliott all the way on Sunday.
That's why I was a little hesitant to pick Denny, because Hendrick has been running so strong. I kind of wanted to pick William Byron. I kind of wanted to pick Kyle Larson again, because he was killing it in those mile and a halves. We're returning to a mile and a half. Of course, he's going to be starting from the back, but yeah, I think he's going to be one to watch too. Eric, who are you going with for your pick this week?
Well, my gut was Chase, so I can't go with that, and I just think, I've talked him up. I do think Hendrick has, the best stable right now and is running the best. Gibbs, obviously with Hamlin and Truex, is doing well. And, Christopher Bell had that win at the road course. And, Kyle Busch is non-existent as far as my eyes. Just, it's his own fault because he's just so good. You expect it's like Kevin Harvick when he doesn't do well, like everyone, Kevin Harvick came in. He's still doing better than
he's still having a great season compared to most.
It's just he's not right.
Yeah.
So I think I got to stick in the Hendrick camp, and I know Willie B has the win, Bowman has the win. That's why I wanted to go with Chase, because I do think his time is here, and I do, just for a fun factor for the race, and to give me another set of drivers to root for.
Yeah, he's going with Larson.
Kyle Larson from the back, baby. Let's watch that mother run, and let's see him go through that field and pass those cars. And he's always fun to watch. And Hendrick, with the way they're running, and like you said, Whitey, we all know how he is at those mile and a half programs.
Especially this year, they've been running so strong.
Yeah, so I'll go with Kyle Larson to rebound here. So.
All right, I think it's a great pick. I think everyone's pick this week is legit, has a great shot to win. Of course, we're 10 races in. We have 9 different winners. Your playoff picture so far looking like Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. has 2 wins on the season. Young Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, and Brad Keselowski. Can Denny or can Chase get it done this week? Can Kyle Larson get win number 2? We will see all this week, Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. on FS1. It's the Buschy McBusch Race 400 at Kansas Speedway, 267 laps for 400 miles. And of course, Saturdays, the trucks are out on track, 7:30 p.m. on FS1 for the Wise Power 200. We'll break it all down again Monday night. For Matt, the Statman Reilly, for Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night